You ever found yourself scrambling in the morning for the perfect read aloud? Like maybe your kids are doing too much interrupting and you really want to read a story that's going to help them understand why they shouldn't interrupt. But you didn't really take the time to research good books on that topic. So you find yourself running down to your school library before school starts, searching for the perfect book, or asking your teacher bestie if she's got any good books you can borrow. At the end of this episode, I'm going to show you how you can map out a read aloud plan for the entire school year that'll save you time and reduce your stress. So why does planning ahead matter? Well, read alouds aren't always just for fun. They can be, and you should have some time built into your schedule for just time to read to your kids with no strings attached. No specific skills that you're trying to teach. Just a fun, relaxing read aloud. But your time is limited, and so being more strategic with the picture books that you choose and planning them ahead can help you teach different standards through those read alouds. When you have a year-long plan for your read alouds, it's going to save you from making last-minute decisions and choosing books that maybe aren't as high of quality or maybe didn't teach exactly the skills that you were looking for, but in a rush, it was all you had to choose from at that last minute. When you make a year-long plan or even a quarterly or monthly plan, you can be assured that you're using high-quality picture books to reach your goal. When you have a year-long plan, it also helps assure that you're using a variety of genres and themes. You want to be sure that you're reading more than just fiction to your class. You want to choose nonfiction and poetry, historical fiction, biography, all those kinds of books. So when you plan ahead, you can make sure that you're choosing books from all sorts of genres. So as an example, in November, the themes that I like to include for the month were fall, Thanksgiving, and in social emotional learning, we talked about gratitude. But I also wanted to teach persuasive and informative writing. I was teaching about why leaves change color in science, and I was teaching reading comprehension skills like story elements, making text connections, main idea, and we were always trying to learn new vocabulary. So my goal was to choose 4 books where I could hit all of those standards. I ended up choosing these 4 books for the month of November. Balloons Over Broadway, because it's a biography and I could teach informative writing and STEM skills with it. I chose A Turkey for Thanksgiving because it was perfect for persuasive writing. And both of those books were perfect for discussing traditions around Thanksgiving, too. My third book for that month was The Leaf Thief, because it was great for teaching kids about the changes that happen in fall, and my final book was 𝗥𝗲𝘀𝗀, which lent itself perfectly to our discussion about gratitude and being thankful for that month. All 4 of these books were great for teaching comprehension skills like story elements and text connections. So when I planned out my read alouds strategically, I could teach all of these different skills with just 4 books. These 4 books are all part of my November read aloud bundle in my TPT store, and I'll link to that in the show notes. So how can you create a year-long read aloud plan? Well, first of all, you want to decide on the framework that you want to use. Are you going to do a weekly read aloud or maybe a daily read aloud? Maybe you'll do both. Maybe you want to choose one high-quality book for each week that you can use to teach many different skills like reading comprehension, writing, science, or math. Maybe you want to stretch that read aloud over the week and do different activities each day that will go with that story. But you might also want to have a daily read aloud time, like when you come in from recess or right before you go home at the end of the day, and maybe those books will be more for fun, with no specific skills or theme attached to it. So then once you've decided your framework, you're going to need to decide the themes or the kinds of things you'll want to teach during each month of the year. For instance, maybe in September, you want to touch on creating classroom community or teaching your different classroom rules or routines. So you're going to want to choose books that are going to help you teach those things in your classroom. In October, maybe you want to teach about fall, or maybe you want to start diving into some social emotional skills like building friendships or respect. So you'll choose books that will help with those skills. Maybe in November, you want to teach about gratitude and being thankful. In fact, I just did a podcast last week in episode 21 about 5 picture books that you can help to teach kids to be thankful. So when you're done with this show, you can go back and listen to that for ideas. Or maybe in November, you want to teach about life long ago and how it differed with our lives today. That's a great topic when you're teaching kids about the first Thanksgiving. So you're going to want to look for nonfiction books or even historical fiction books. So every month you want to think about what are your central themes for the month, and also what skills do you want to teach in reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. For instance, if you're teaching informative writing in November, what picture books can you choose that are going to help you teach informative writing to your class? And then to narrow it down even further, can you find books that will not only help you teach informative writing, but also fit in with your theme of fall or life long ago or whatever? This is how you strategically choose picture books so that you not only have time to read aloud to your class, but you can also use those books to help you teach different skills. And so your goal when building a year-long read aloud plan is to find books that can help you mix those two things together, your central themes for the month with the actual academic skills that you want to teach. So for instance, if you're teaching about insects in the spring, you might want to do an Eric Carle author study. You can read all of his different insect books like The Grouchy Ladybug and The Very Hungry Caterpillar, The Very Clumsy Click Beetle, and then you can use those books to help you teach about insect life cycles in science and to write informative reports about insects in writing. You definitely want to leave room to be flexible when you're making your read aloud plans for the year. I think it's good to choose one main read aloud for each week, so basically 4 read alouds for the month. You can base those on the skills that you want to teach throughout the year and the themes for the month. But I think as far as choosing daily read alouds, you can be way more flexible. You might make a list of books that fall into different themes for each month, maybe a list of back-to-school books, fall books, holiday books, stuff like that. And then maybe choose from those for your daily read alouds. You can put a book basket together at the beginning of each month for your daily read alouds and keep it next to your chair at the carpet. You can let kids choose the book that they want you to read or choose it yourself. It doesn't have to be so set in stone as your weekly read aloud where you're using it to teach different skills. So how can you keep this yearly read aloud plan organized? Well, one idea is to have a binder where you keep your book lists. Or you could have a calendar of some sort where you plan out your monthly themes so you can keep track of what you're going to be reading each month. I like to store my books by month for seasonal books and also by theme, like all my nonfiction or poetry. I also organize by author too, so I could easily find books by my favorite children's authors like Jan Brett or Tommy DePola or whoever. I had a file cabinet just for read alouds so that I could keep them organized and easy to find. I had loads of books in my classroom library, but I also had some specific books filed because I wanted to keep the activities that I'd be doing with those books together with the book. For instance, at the beginning of the year, I always read David Goes to School when we were making our classroom rules. I had different worksheets and activities that I did with that book, so I kept it in my August files because I knew that's when I would read that book. If I wanted to read it again later in the year, I knew exactly where it was. When you keep your books filed in order like this, you can add your sticky notes with discussion prompts or your comprehension questions tucked inside of each book so they're always there when you grab the book. And once you have your plan made, you can basically just reuse it year after year. You have to remember that even though you might be thinking, well, I did that last year, it's always new to every class because it's their first year with you. And if you find a new book that you love, you can add it into your plan or substitute it for another book. But you don't have to reinvent the wheel every year. Remember, part of this plan is to help you save time searching all the time for the perfect read aloud to teach different skills throughout the year. Once you find that book, you don't have to go searching for a different one all the time. So, just to recap, when you plan your read alouds ahead of time, you'll not only save time, but you're also going to have more intentional teaching that'll help you cover a variety of skills. And in turn, that's going to equal a lot less stress on you and your students. If you're new to this, you can start small. Start by planning 1 month at a time. If you're doing a weekly read aloud, that's only 4 books and activities for the month. But once you have those activities, make a file either on your computer or a hard copy that you keep in a file cabinet and organize them so you have everything you need for each read aloud at your fingertips each year. If you work on it every month, next school year, it'll be all done. So that's how you do it. First, you want to choose a framework for your read alouds and then map it out by month or season. Make sure you're balancing the types of books and genres that you choose and layer in your curriculum connections throughout the year. Leave room to be flexible with your daily read alouds and keep everything organized by book and month so you can find it easily year after year. If you want to jumpstart, I have monthly book companions in my TPT store where I've done all the planning for you. There's 4 books for each month, and they're broken down into reading comprehension skills, writing, math, science, and even social emotional learning skills for every book. The lesson plans are written, and all you need are the books, and you can find them all in your local library or even on YouTube. And if you want a huge savings, I have the entire year-long bundle in my store as well, and it's deeply discounted. I'll leave the links to everything in the show notes.